Hey everybody, welcome. I thought there's no better time than the present to talk makeup. So guys, let's talk about it. Welcome everybody to all my peeps who are in here. I want to talk to y'all about makeup today because there's no time like the present. I want to start with a few things I learned along the way because a lot of people know me from the world of podcasting, but it was because I podcasted that I learned how to do makeup. In fact, I researched a ton in order to learn. The first thing was how to not be oily on camera. So I don't know if anybody has experienced that. I think this is common with girls who look like me. We might end up in a photo, end up in a video, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I've got like grease ball going all over my face. So that's how my whole thing with makeup got started. I always thought that I knew how to do makeup, but again, it wasn't until I started to podcast that I was able to see in high definition every little skin imperfection, and I was on a journey to kind of resolve what I saw on camera. So as a result, I'm going to be sharing with you guys today a lot of things I learned along the way from podcasting from the aspect of makeup. So hop on in. Things I didn't know that I wish I would have known as I started podcasting with regards to makeup. I didn't know that skin prep was such a big deal. I didn't know that just the basic cleanser, toner, moisturizer, what you do to your face under your makeup actually sets the stage for great makeup. I didn't know that. And so that's the first thing that I would recommend is for those of you guys who don't have a 3-step system, definitely get into that. If you're looking for one, you can shop shopmontanacash.com, and of course you can find my 3-step. I have basic cleanser, and available for sale right now is the toner and the moisturizer. So you can go over there while supplies last. And then getting into the makeup. The next thing that I didn't realize is the importance of skin prep and then priming your face. So that's the next thing. So you guys can find the primer of your choice. And here's what I would give you in terms of tips with primer, because primer is very strange. I'll show you one of my primers. This is, this one I'm not selling, but this one I'm just gonna show you. This one is an e.l.f. poreless primer. This one has a really smooth, glossy feel. Primers are not all created equal. This is what I had to learn. When you're looking for your makeup to stick and stay, you're gonna probably use something more like a Power Grip. But when you're just looking for that blurred finish on your face, you're gonna use something that's more like a poreless primer. The difference is, if you're looking for that makeup to legit stick to your face and not move, I would go with the Power Grip. So that's the difference there. So you gotta have something that's gonna make your makeup stick. In terms of the feel, the Power Grip is gonna feel like as if you touched your hand to a piece of sticky tape. That's how sticky it feels. And your makeup is actually gripping onto that, which is very different from something like this, which is almost like, it feels more like a Vaseline feel. It's what's gonna make you have a blurred appearance in your under eye. It's gonna make you look poreless, essentially. So those are some of those basic tips. So if, like, just to summarize, if you guys are just hopping on, we're talking a little bit about makeup today, and I wanted to give you guys a heads up about some of the things I learned along the way with podcasting with regards to makeup. Again, the very, very basics: cleanser, toner, moisturizer is your skin prep. That's like your basic everyday thing that you should do if you haven't already been doing. I always say a basic skin prep, cleanser, toner, moisturizer is great for any woman of any age, teens all the way on up. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is once you finish those basic cleanser, toner, moisturizer pieces, I would say that, again, even before you use your primer, you're gonna want to make sure you have your SPF on. For me, my sunscreen, I typically would use anything from SPF 30 to an SPF 70. It just depends on your persuasion there. So I follow cleanser, toner, moisturizer, then I do my sunscreen followed by my primer. That's my basic. That's how you get ready for like your camera ready style makeup. That's what I would suggest for that. So welcome everybody if you're hopping on in there. Today I'm talking about makeup. So this one is gonna target anyone who likes to wear makeup. That's what we're talking about. Alrighty, so the next thing we're gonna cover is a little bit on the basic mistakes that one can make when you're applying your makeup. So I would say one of the biggest mistakes that a person can make when they're putting on their makeup is when they go use their setting powder, for instance. Like let's say you're gonna go use your setting powder, and when you go use your setting powder, you already have like a crease someplace. Maybe let's say you've got a noticeable crease, and then you're gonna just put the setting powder on top of that. What'll happen is if you don't smooth out your crease before you put powder on it, what's gonna happen is you're gonna seal in the crease with the powder. So it's almost essentially like if you see a crease, if you think about powder, always just put your hand and touch that area before you put either loose powder or pressed powder on your face. Because if you put powder on your face where there's a noticeable crease, it's gonna set the crease in there. So that's my other tip. That's for people who have mature skin, or even young women who are starting to get those fine lines. If you take your powder puff, you take your loose powder puff and you put it over an area that you see a line, you're gonna seal your skin with that line in. So the easiest way to go in and check your face before you ever put a powder on is to just, use your finger and just touch that area wherever you see there's a crease, and then go ahead and use your powder on top of it. That's how you want to handle that. The other thing that I would suggest when it comes to powder is knowing the differences between your loose powder and your pressed powder. So I'm gonna grab one of my I've got my Moira pressed powder, and then I've got my Moira loose setting powder. So these powders work completely different, and this is general. Even if you're not buying my makeup, this is still good general information if you're a lady out there trying to figure out your makeup. This is my loose setting powder. I've used a lot of it. You can see, it's almost done. And then I've got my pressed powder. This is my pressed powder. You can see that one's almost done too. This is my makeup that I use every day. So the difference between the two of these is this one is translucent. This one's actually the color of my complexion. They're used differently because on your loose powder, you're gonna be targeting your T-zone, which is if you make a T in your face, you're targeting the center of your forehead. You're gonna be targeting that area. You're gonna be targeting the center of your nose with this loose powder, and you're also gonna target right under the eye, all the way around to the chin. Invited me to join as a guest. I don't know if that was you trying to say that or if that's just something that came up. But yeah, so you're gonna target your T-zone with the loose setting powder. On the other hand, your pressed powder works a little bit differently. Your pressed powder goes on the perimeter of your face. It's got a little bit more of a color to it. This one happens to be waterproof versus the loose powder is not. But the loose powder is noticeably a different color. This one is the translucent color. This one is there to give a brightened look to your T-zone and to help you fight those wrinkles. Versus your pressed powder is gonna be your waterproof powder. It's gonna sit on the perimeter of your skin, so that not only you've got a waterproof barrier, but that your complexion has dimension, because you're going from a brightened area here in your T-zone to like a more shaded area on the perimeter. So that's something that you can think of. I would say the other thing that people might think of when they're thinking about makeup is they may forget about the power of setting spray. So when you're talking about setting sprays typically will take a lot of people are like, why do you guys use setting spray? And I didn't even understand this initially. When you're putting powder on your face, you're adding a new layer to your face, right? Once you put that on there, you're using the setting spray. You're spraying your face because you've got all these separate layers. You've got the foundation that you put on, you've got the concealer that you put on, you've got the powder that you've placed. And the setting spray is legitimately melting everything in to make it one skin instead of all of these little layers. So it's gonna melt it to make it look like it's all one uniform skin, but it's also gonna help to seal it and protect it from sweat and fallout. So that's what setting spray is for. So I feel like when you're new to using makeup, like I can tell you back when I was in, undergrad and I was using makeup, I thought I was using makeup well because I put foundation on and I just slap that on and then I would leave out. And I thought that was, if I got that and I've got lipstick, I'm done. But really your makeup is gonna hold up differently when you're adding these different layers in. Not only is it gonna look differently, it's gonna look, you can see there's gonna be dimension between what's more bright and what's more dark. You're gonna see that if you get rained on, it's gonna hold up. If you hop in a pool, it's gonna hold up, all of those good things. Alrighty, so another common thing that I noticed with makeup is that there are, at times let's say we're using our makeup brush. So this is just like little tips on, your makeup for those of you guys that are into makeup. I happen to end up learning a lot from podcasting about makeup, and I didn't realize that me just throwing makeup on and going was not really doing makeup. It's legitimately knowing technique, what to use, how to use it, all of that is part of the deal. So one of the interesting things that you'll learn about makeup, it depends on what tools you use for makeup. I typically use like my hands a lot. I also happen to use a beauty blender. Some people are really big on using makeup brushes, so I want to talk a little bit about the power of a good makeup brush and what you should be looking for as you actually use your makeup brush. So one of the things you can see here when you look at your makeup brush, I don't have any makeup on here, but when you look at your makeup brush, you can see that, like, look at that angle there. There's kind of an angle going on here. And when you're talking about using your actual makeup brush, you want to ensure that makeup is not just on one spot of the brush. So there's a tendency of, you see a lot of content creator girlies do this number where they take their makeup and they like squeeze it directly on the face, or they squeeze it directly on the brush. That's something that that beauty creators are doing for the camera because it just looks cool. That's not what we actually do when we actually put our makeup on properly. When we're putting our makeup on properly, we're actually taking that makeup and we're squeezing it on to either like a makeup palette, or we're squeezing it on to the top of our hand, and we're accessing that makeup from that area. So I literally will squeeze the makeup onto the top of my hand, and then I will access it with, for me, I'll access it with my finger. For people who use a beauty blender, they're gonna access it by tapping the beauty blender on the surface area. And if you're using a brush, you're gonna be tapping it on the brush. The goal if you're using a brush is to make sure that the full surface area of your brush is covered with the foundation. You don't wanna see, this is an angled brush, you don't wanna see makeup just on this part of the brush, and because it's angled, you didn't get makeup all the way on the full surface of the brush. You wanna make sure, and a lot of people when they use foundation brushes, they're actually purchasing a brush that's completely flat, which is awesome too. That's a great brush. So you want like a dense brush, densely packed bristles, and if you have that flat brush, that's awesome. You wanna make sure that when you touch the makeup, touch your palm onto the makeup, you wanna make sure that the full surface of the brush will contain makeup from top you know, from side to side, top to bottom. That's what you're looking for when you're putting that makeup on the brush. When you do that, you're ensuring that you've got a full surface area on the brush so that when you go to press the makeup in, you're getting coverage evenly across the full surface of the skin. So if you only had makeup on the edge of the brush, then when you go to place it on the face, you're only getting a little drop of makeup here and you're not gonna get full coverage all around. So those are some of the things I want you to think about when you're thinking about the application process. And that goes similar for if you're using a beauty blender, you're gonna tap the beauty blender right on your hand and you're just gonna be tapping it on your face that way. If you're using your finger, same thing. You're gonna wanna make sure that you don't just have a spot of makeup on one little spot of your finger. You wanna make sure you've got a full surface area and that you're applying it the same way. All right, so those are just a couple of tips I wanted to talk to you guys about when it comes to makeup application. If you guys are looking for foundation, concealers, skin prep items, I have everything available on www.shopmontanacash.com, shopmontanacash.com. You'll find that I've got my own foundation there. Today I'm wearing the foundation in the shade Honey, which is 3402. And then I'm wearing the Moira Mega Concealer. I'm wearing that in the shade 300. So that's what I'm wearing, 300 under my eyes. And I'm wearing the shade Honey, which is 3402 in Montana Cash. So if you look like you're my complexion, that's what you're wearing. And then of course you've got the and under my eye. Today I'm wearing the Moira Loose Translucent Powder under the eye, and then same thing with my pressed powder on the perimeter of my face. I'm using the pressed powder. I'm using it in the shade 500, so you can look for that on the website. The same thing we're talking about when we're talking about using our powder puff. It's a similar concept as using the makeup brush. You want to make sure that the powder's on the powder puff evenly. And so for that reason, one of the biggest tips I can give you is you never actually go into your loose powder. You never go into your loose powder and then go directly on your face. When you do that, it's gonna spread out unevenly. You're gonna have patches of powder that are thicker and then areas where it's thinner. So instead of just going directly from your loose powder directly to your face, you're gonna go in with your loose powder. You're going to actually tap it inside of the tub, and then you actually can tap it on your either the top of your hand, the side of your wrist, and you're just smoothing it. Like you could just smooth it a little bit like that, so that as you look at your powder puff, you're gonna make sure that the powder is evenly distributed across the powder puff before you apply it to your face. That's gonna help ensure that you've got a layer of powder that's evenly distributed on your face. And then once you do that, of course, you're just gonna be dusting that powder away, dusting any extra powder away. Shouldn't be a whole lot there, because when you're going in with either foundation or powder, you're always going one layer at a time, one layer, and then you're just dusting off if you've used powder, one layer. And if you need more, you can always add more. The idea is don't try to hurry up and put the thick layer on, because if you do, you're gonna end up with areas that are either patchy, unevenly distributed, or cakey, which is not gonna be as natural of a look. So yeah, so I wanted to give you guys a few tips. Hopefully all of that helped. So for makeup application, here's the last tip that I'll give you guys, because I'm in the south part of the United States, where we tend to have high temperatures in the summer. You start to get a little bit sweaty. A lot of us, once we finish getting our makeup on, we're faced with the idea of retouching the makeup, and we're retouching the makeup in a situation where we've already put it on, we've started doing all the sweating. The first thing I want you guys to think about when you start sweating in your makeup is, hey, do I have waterproof makeup from the Montana Cash collection? Because we have waterproof makeup. This makeup is absolutely waterproof. And then our Moira pressed powder is absolutely waterproof followed by our setting spray, which is absolutely amazing. That's gonna help you seal your face, almost put an umbrella over your face before you start sweating. The other piece about that is, what's cool about it is, even though sweat breaks through this from your skin out through the makeup, as it dries, it actually dries back intact. I've actually tested it, and it'll look for a second like, oh wait, sweat's breaking through. Yeah, sweat's gonna break through. But as it dries again, as you cool down and it dries again, the makeup is still in place. So one of the things you're gonna do if you do have an episode where you're out in the sun and you've sweated quite a bit, you're just gonna take yourself a paper towel and you're gonna blot your face. If you have some fancy blotter tissues, of course use that, but you're just gonna blot your face with a paper towel, and then you're gonna come behind it, and this is the only time you would ever go over your whole face with a pressed powder. Again, typically you're going to be using loose powder to brighten your T-zone when you first set your makeup, and then the pressed powder goes on the perimeter of your face. But once you've finished your face, you've already added your setting spray at the end, you've been out on the town, you've been sweating, when you stop for a bit and you're noticing you're sweating and you're trying to touch your makeup up, what you're going to do is you're going to grab tissue first, and you're gonna just blot your face. That's the first thing you're gonna do, is just blot any excess oil or sweat. Then you're gonna come behind that, and for a retouch, you're gonna do one of two things. If you happen to have an area that has makeup that's just missing, you might just touch that area with makeup at the least amount as possible. In general, I don't think you really need to do that. The makeup is just gonna settle back in if you just hit it with pressed powder. So I would just say, go back with your pressed powder, and this is the time that you would dab your powder puff with your pressed powder, and then you can just go all over the face. And this time, including, you can hit the T-zone. Just keep in mind that when we're talking about setting your face, typically we set with loose translucent powder here, and then on the perimeter we're going to be using our pressed powder. But if you've already been out in the sun, you've been sweating, you've been doing your own thing, when you come back and you're touching up, you're just going to blot with a paper towel, and then you're going to go in with pressed powder all over, and you're going to re-spray with your setting spray, and you're going to keep it moving. That's it. So that's your way, because this is actually putting it back together. This is a waterproof powder. It's going to help keep your makeup from breaking up. So it is awesome for that. So again, if you guys, hopefully some of those makeup tips helped you guys. Again, to summarize the video, I just want to let you guys know the foundation of all great makeup is good skincare. So I always recommend cleanser, toner, moisturizer, and SPF. That's just your basics of every day. Even if you're not a makeup girly, you're always going to want to do cleanser, toner, moisturizer, and SPF before you hit the sun. If you're going to be going out wearing makeup, then that's when if you're going to go straight from cleanser, toner, moisturizer, SPF, you can go straight into makeup. If you're looking for a real strong hold, you're gonna use makeup primer first and then go in with your foundation. It just depends on what you're looking for. I don't recommend anything super grippy if you're gonna be out in the super sweaty sun. I think it's better just to use your skin prep and then go right in with your makeup if you're gonna be out in the really, really sweaty sun. But to each their own. Some people just absolutely swear by primers. I don't swear by it. If I'm gonna wear, like, for instance, today I have on primer. If I'm gonna wear a primer and I'm not gonna be sweating like crazy, then I might use something like a poreless primer, and this one I'm using is e.l.f. poreless primer, and I'm only gonna hit the nose, the center of my forehead, and right under the eyes, just on the cheeks here. I'm just gonna go right there for my poreless primer. That's how I'm gonna handle the poreless primer. So I wanted to leave you guys with that. And also, if you're looking for products, I'll just give you a quick summary on the products I'm wearing today. Today I am wearing lip liner and the number 9. And then I'm also using my, it's under the lip pen, and then I've got the lipstick that I'm wearing is number 9 on the lipstick. So that's what I'm wearing for today. And then for makeup, for today's look, I'm wearing the Montana Cash foundation in the shade Honey, which is 3402. I'm wearing that foundation. I'm also wearing the Mega Concealer from Moira in the shade 300 under my eye. So I'm wearing Moira shade 300, and followed by I'm wearing the Moira loose setting powder on my under eye, and then I'm wearing the Moira waterproof pressed powder on the perimeter of my skin. You can see there's dimension here where it's a little bit brighter under my eye and a little bit darker around the perimeter of my skin. I'm also wearing the Duo Stick from my contour line. I'm wearing the Duo Stick, and today I'm wearing the shade 800 for contour. I've contoured just in this little area here around the edges of my hair, and then contoured here, and then I've contoured just around where you see the double chin to get rid of the double chin. So you can see a little darker here, that's contour, and then you can see just a little bit of blush. So I'm wearing the Moira concealer in the shade 300 in the under eye, topped off with the loose translucent powder from Moira, and then I followed that with pressed powder on the perimeter of my face. So that is the look for today. Again, the Montana Cash foundation is 100% waterproof, as is the pressed powder from Moira, also 100% waterproof. So when you go out and you find yourself sweating, I actually tested it myself. When you find yourself sweating, it's gonna loosen for a bit, and then when it dries, it's gonna dry right back in place. You can always refresh with your Moira setting spray, and you can also always go into the restroom, it's a ladies' room, and blot your face with a paper towel and just let it do its thing. If you know you're gonna be where there's gonna be some air and some breeze going, just let the natural air blow and let it dry up on its own, in case you're one of those folks like me who tends to sweat a little bit. But that's why I have my line of makeup that is waterproof, because I happen to be a little bit oilier, I perspire a little bit more, and so there's that. Okay guys, so if you're looking for those products, you can head on over to www.shopmontanacash.com, and you can find everything from the concealer, the foundation, the loose powder, the pressed powder, the setting spray, the Duo Stick for the contouring. Today I'm wearing the Duo Stick in the shade 400. I also, when I want to go a little bit brighter, I'll also do 600 to give that like more bronzy appeal. I'll do that from time to time. But today I was just in the mood for like just the deeper bronzy look. That's what I was in the mood for. So if you guys have questions, go ahead, pop them in the chat. Today we were talking about makeup with Montana Cash. Check www.shopmontanacash.com if you're interested in any of those products. I use lipstick in the lip kit and the number 9 for the liner, as well as the number 9 for the lipstick. I used shade 300 for my concealer in the Moira Mega Concealer. I used the shade Honey for my my foundation, and then I used pressed powder in the shade 500. My application process, I like to use my hands, but again, today we talked about the power of the proper use of your brush. This is a 1202 brush you can find on my website, but when you're using a foundation brush, your goal is to make sure that you're using a dense foundation brush and that you cover the makeup. It has to cover all of the bristles, so that when you touch down here, you're picking up your makeup. You're never putting makeup directly on your face. I know we always see beauty creators do that, but they do it because it looks cute on camera. It's just a makeup trick that we do on camera. It really isn't how we're applying our makeup when the cameras are not on. When the cameras are turned off, we apply our makeup to the top of our hand or to a makeup palette, and we're literally dabbing the brush this way, making sure that there's full coverage on all the bristles of the brush here. We're also never squeezing the makeup onto the top of the brush. You guys, we see that a lot with beauty creators, but that is a big lie. That's just something that we do for the camera because it looks cool on camera. It just looks cool. We see people squeezing stuff on the face. It's a thing that looks cool. It's nothing. When the camera is off, we would never do that. You literally, if you squeeze makeup directly onto the brush, makeup is gonna trickle down inside of the brush and you're gonna lose a lot of product like that. On top of it, when you go to apply it, you've got a big old blob here. When you go to apply, you're applying the blob here and this is dry and you're gonna have very unevenly distributed makeup. And so what's gonna happen with that is even if you get it on, it's gonna be thick in some places, it's gonna be thin in other places, and as you begin to perspire, the makeup is going to separate and break and it's gonna fall apart on you. So that's something to consider when you're applying your makeup. But that's why I say, even though you see beauty creators spray things on their face or they spray it directly on the brush, it's literally just because it looks cute on camera. The reality is they're spraying it on the palm of their hand, on the top of their hand often, and they're accessing the makeup there in order to get a flat surface of all makeup, either on the brush, on the finger, or on the beauty blender. The whole idea is to be able to spread it out evenly across the skin. That's what's gonna give you that seamless look. It's also gonna help protect the makeup as it wears throughout the day so that it's not breaking up and kind of falling apart on you. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If you guys have questions, let me know. Today we're just giving makeup tips. For those of you guys who are kind of new to using makeup, I thought for years I thought I knew how to use makeup, and once I was on camera for podcasting and I started noticing that I was super oily, and then I realized other girls who looked like me also had that problem. I was on a campaign to fix the oily face. I wish I could just pull up the video that started all of this, because there's a certain video. I went to go edit my video, y'all. It's way in the beginning of my podcasting years ago. I went to go edit my video and my face was so oily, I stopped everything and I'm like, I've got to fix my oily face before I go on camera again. And I noticed that other ladies who looked like me were having the same issues with the camera, and I was like, I've got to figure this out. And I'm naturally I've got oily skin, so that's one. So the makeup line that I have, it's perfect for people who have either oily or combination skin because it's a waterproof line, so it's going to help with that. But here's one more tip I'll give you guys related to people who have oily skin and they're showing up oily on camera or on photograph. You want to consider this. You want to consider the idea that the skin prep has a lot to do with how your makeup performs. So I thought because I was oily that I should never put any moisturizer oils on my face, that would cause the problem to get worse. But it's actually not true. You need the skin prep, you need the cleanser, toner, moisturizer on your face, and the more dry that your face is, it's going to be producing more oil. So the more your face doesn't have the moisturizer, you're going to be producing more oil. So one of the best ways of controlling the person with oily face is to do the proper skincare every time. Cleanser, toner, moisturizer, SPF, and then go ahead and start with the makeup if you're starting right away. If you're not starting right away, you're gonna wanna go ahead and prime the face. So if I'm gonna be under podcast lighting and I'm gonna do full makeup, then I'm actually going to use a primer. And for podcasting, I'm either gonna use a power grip, like an e.l.f. power grip, or I'm gonna use like an e.l.f. poreless primer. But I'm gonna use a primer if I'm gonna be doing podcasting. Now, if I'm gonna just be in person, I don't always use a primer. If I'm just gonna be in person, I'll often skip that step because I'm usually going from skin prep right to makeup, and I allow my skin prep to be my primer. But when I'm going on camera, I need the face to be more poreless. I need the makeup to stay in place. I'm gonna be under all those lights and HD. So that's why I do all the steps for that. Just to give you an idea, doing all those steps will take me about an hour if you're doing all of the steps that have to be done. And if I had to run it off the top of my head, the steps are cleanser, toner, moisturizer, SPF, followed by, if you're doing big camera type of makeup, we're talking about primer at that point, and then we're talking foundation. And then if you have any skin imperfections, you're gonna go in with a concealer to spot correct those areas. Or if you're having some major imperfections, you might go in with like more of a cover cream and spot control those areas. And you're gonna tap around the edge of those areas to like kind of just smooth it out. And then you're gonna go in with like your contour, your blush. I tend to use cream contours and cream blushes first. So your cream contour, your cream blush, and then you're gonna spray that with setting spray before you do anything else, let that dry. Because it's melting the makeup together so that although you're going one layer at a time, it's becoming one. And then you're gonna go in with just like a little bit of loose setting powder, and I would say again, loose setting powder on the T-zone, and then a pressed powder on the perimeter. And then you're gonna go ahead and do your eyebrows, your eyelashes. I notice a lot of beauty creators do their eyes first, but that's just not my way. I've tried it, I don't like it that way. So I do my eyebrows and my eye makeup next. Including like your concealer, or if you're a person who's got a lot of creasing that happens when you do your eyeshadow, you're gonna use an eyeshadow base. I try to minimize having extra product if I don't need it. So if you're not having any creasing when you do your makeup, then you're just gonna use your concealer, and you're gonna do a very thin layer of your concealer on your upper eye and your eyelid, and you're gonna tap that when you're done. Once that's dry, you're just tapping it with a very light dose of loose powder. And when you're using your loose powder, that's gonna keep that in place. Then you're gonna go on top of it with any eyeshadow. And eyeliner and your mascara and falsies if you do that. I've gotten away from doing the false eyelashes because I transparently didn't like how it was making my eyelashes go thin. It was making them go thin, and I was like, wait a second, I was doing this for vanity. I already got eyelashes. So I stopped doing that. So you're gonna be doing that, and then you're doing your lip liner and your lipstick, and that's basically it. Once you're done with everything, if you feel like your blush is like not popping the way you want it to, you can always go back in with a powder blush and then add your powder blush here and there. And here's the tip. If you've got a very skinny face, then you may be adding blush in this area if your face is a little bit skinnier. But for people like me, I've got a round face, so I'm trying to keep my face lifted and longer. So that means your blush is never, look at my blush, it stops about right here. Your blush is never gonna come past your eyeball, like past the actual eyeball. Your blush needs to be on the white of your eye and back, but never like on the apple of your cheek, literally. It needs to be kind of in this area is where you place your blush. So that is your blush placement. When you get blush that's coming down in this area, when it's on the actual cheek, this is like more of the like 80s look for blush, 90s look. When you get blush in this area, it's gonna make your cheeks heavier and fatter, and it's going to make your face more round. So if you've got a really kind of, skinny face and you're trying to give your face more fullness, then adding blush in this area. And you see a lot of girls doing that. They're doing the blush here and they're going in this like W shape. Those are the girls who have a really long, skinny face. If you're like me and you've got more of a round face, you're gonna keep your blush kind of on the outer part of your eye and back. That's where you're gonna keep it. Similarly with contour. Contour can be tricky. You wanna keep your contour a bit up. If you go too low with the contour, it's gonna drag your whole face down, and that's actually gonna age you. So you're gonna wanna keep your contour like about right here. And when you're feeling frisky, you might do a contour line that comes down like this. And what that does is it mimics the idea of buccal fat removal. You're seeing like some of the Hollywood celebrities getting the fat of their cheeks removed, you know, cosmetically. Well, I don't believe in that. I believe in good contour. So on like a day like today, I did a basic contour, which is just here. But if you wanted to do a more aggressive contour, like when I'm podcasting, then I need to be snatched. I will take my contour and I will take it mostly from the top of my ear down toward my mouth, but instead of stopping, I'll keep going and I'll let that contour come down this way. So basically, this whole little piece would be shaded a little bit darker to give a little bit more of a snatched look. So if you have like chubby little cheeks, like, you know, little chubby cheeks, it kind of takes away the chubby cheeks. So wherever you're contouring, it's going to be a little bit darker color. That's going to basically remove the fat in that spot. So people tend to contour around behind this jaw, under here, under, and under there. That's where people are typically contouring. We're doing that because if you have a double chin, which thankfully I don't have, but if you do have the double chin, you put the contour here and it actually goes away. Okay, so that's the placement, the location for your makeup is there. That's what that's for. So anyways, if you're looking for contour, I've got some contour. You can use a duo sticks. And today I used 800. I also often use 600. More often than not, I use 600, but today I was feeling frisky, so I used 800 and I stopped here because I was more having a regular, just everyday kind of a makeup look. I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't going all in with it. When I decide to do podcasting makeup, I'll take my contour and I'll bring it all the way down like that, so that I'm giving a more snatched, like a buccal fat removal look. It'll make you look more like this. And actually, that's a good way of looking at it. So when I do this, my contour kind of shows up like right where I suction my face. So to each their own. I mean, I noticed some beauty creators will do a little bit of baking here. That's not really my way, but they do that to give different illusions. It'll give an illusion that this part is nice and dark. That's what that does. It's just not my way, so I don't do it, but to each their own. But there's all kinds of cool makeup tricks, and what you guys will learn over time, the more you study makeup, it's such a science. It's such a science. So I would just say that when you see someone do something, it's not necessarily that they do that in reality. They might be doing a camera trick of spraying makeup directly on their face or spraying it directly on their brush. Those are makeup tricks. It's not what people are doing practically. When they get off the camera, they're doing everything the right way, because doing it right the first time, it just saves time and it gives you a better look. So yeah, that's what I would say about makeup. And I'm looking right now, one of the things that I'm kind of leaning into right now is the idea of lip liner. I see a lot of people going towards the brown lip liners, and I'm more partial to lip liner that has a little bit of color to it. So I think it's because I already have brown lips that have a strong brown line. I think that's probably the reason why. But I think on lips that are already pink, a brown lip liner is nice before going in with a lot of the neutral colors. But on me, I tend to kind of go with a little bit of color as my liner because I already have a strong lip line naturally. But yeah, hopefully that helps. You guys go ahead and be sure to shop. ShopMontanaCash.com. Again, it's ShopMontanaCash.com. If you're looking for a foundation, I've got the Montana Cash Waterproof Foundation. I've got the loose translucent powder from Moira. And then I've got the waterproof pressed powder from Moira. I'm wearing the shade Honey. For foundation, it's 3402. I'm wearing the translucent loose powder in my T-zone, followed by the pressed powder in the perimeter. I'm wearing the Mega Concealer under eye in the shade 300. So, and I'm wearing the Moira setting spray. If you are interested in a brush, this one is the 1202 brush. So you guys go ahead and have a blast on the website, shopmontanacash.com. Okay, guys. I'll catch you guys next time. Have a happy holiday, a happy Easter, and happy upcoming Resurrection Sunday. Bye, everybody.